Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll call the Budget, Finance, and Investment Committee to order. The first item on our agenda is to approve our February 9th minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Jernigan and Commissioner Gerald. Additions or corrections? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We are ready for our investment report, and our county trustee, Mr. Beatty, will join us.
Thank you, Ms. Ely. You can see our reports are consistent, Commissioner Schaefer. The LGIP stays at 12 basis points. If you'll notice that we did have a bid this past month, had the same bidders that we had the month before, but you can see that the winning bid was a little lower than we had last month, was just kind of indicative of where the market is. Just not much demand, not much depth for what we're doing, but it beats LGIP. So we're able to do a little better.
Move to approve
Thank you,
report.
Commissioner Jernigan.
Second.
And seconded by Commissioner Sadler. Any further discussion or questions for Mr. Beatty? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Nice to see your face.
Gentlemen, if you will please locate your fund condition report, our Finance Director, Mrs. Nolan, will begin with the development tax. Are you ready?
This is exciting. In February, we received $357,750 for the month. Brings our year-to-date total to $866,250. Within that number, there was 190 apartments in the city of Murfreesboro that generated $282,750.
Absolutely.
We just might make our estimate of $1 million.
Must be a few more apartments coming along.
Yeah, 4 more months to make it.
It's about to build a school to educate children who live in those apartments. Don't dampen the spirits.
Down.
Gentlemen, let's move on, please, to cash balances.
At the end of February, our cash balance was $256,296,000, with $205,982,000 being in operating funds, $50,314,000 being borrowed funds.
Any questions or discussions on the cash balances? Gentlemen, I'm going to ask you to turn to page 25 in the report. It is our Finance Director's responsibility to report to us if we go over our expense, and then it's our, okay, and then it is our responsibility to be aware of that and ask that to be addressed as soon as possible. She'll explain that on page 25.
25, under the available percent expended, the Education Capital Projects Fund, that line is over expended by over appropriated by $135,522. And Mr. Sandberg, we've spoken, and he will be bringing back an amendment. This is, a lot of it has to do with projects that carried over from last year to this year. We bring an amendment forward. The fund balance in that project is over $1 million. Projects that were, approved for last year that didn't get completed, amendments usually are brought forward to put those on the books, and so that will be redone.
So this is just bookkeeping and
It's let us
time
know.
of year and different things.
And it happened in February, so,
Yeah.
but not quick enough for us to bring amendments through.
And then, would you like us to look at the revenue sheet?
Why wouldn't that be done, say, in July or August of last year?
We really should be doing that probably around September and October.
Because they're gonna complete them,
It's
it's
gonna
in
be
the process, I get it.
Just want answers, if that's all right.
Mr. Sandberg would like to make a comment about that, so I'm asking him to join us, please.
At that point, we don't know exactly where we are with those projects, so we postpone it until we'll have a pretty good idea what project, what line items it need to be in. It's just got postponed a little too late this time around.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
but we will be bringing that to the next board meeting.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Sandberg.
After this next
the revenue review.
In the process of, and we'll have all good information. The numbers suggest that where our budget is, that the revenues are coming in ahead of where we were on the 5 years previous to that. So that tells me, that revenue that is probably coming in better. In the process of estimating revenues for next year, and that's what I'm seeing. Some revenues are going to come in better than what we estimated. Fewer will be less. But overall, I think in all the funds, it will be positive. The one I wanted to bring to your attention, just that stood out to me, was in the general fund, the other governments and citizen groups. What is in that number is a billing to the feds for the presidential primary and for the city of Murfreesboro elections. Those things won't happen until, of course, we are ahead of the primary, but we won't get the monies till later in the year. Also, there were contributions that we've not received for the GIS and some OIT stuff that will probably not happen to the end of the year. So that's skewing the number. We've got quite a bit budgeted. I think in that particular line, there's like
It's like,
700,000.
doesn't that usually come around in June before we close out in July?
But we had about 4 items that we haven't had in prior years, so the budget for that is large, 700,000 for that particular line that we don't typically have. So that's what I'm saying, it's kind of skewing the numbers.
Yeah. Madam Chairman, motion to approve the report.
Thank you, Commissioner Stanley.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Fix. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, that motion carries. We're ready now for our risk management financial report. Mrs. Stinson.
Fund 264, we'll start there. It's a little bit better than what we've seen. In the month of February, per employee per month basis, we're at $684.54. Compared to prior year, same time, we're at $529.28. When we take our on-site medical experience, combined with the experience we see through the medical program at Cigna, our total per employee per month is $714.23, compared to same time prior at $561.87, for a year-to-date of $744.47, of 14% growth over prior year.
Growth and expense.
Yes, that's right.
Last year was a real good year.
Yeah, I
Yes, it
noticed that.
was. Certainly this experience will have an impact as we look at what our rates will be for our insurance claim going forward. We'll have to take all this into consideration. Any questions? We'll move to Fund 266. Year-to-date, we're at $785,204.87 compared to prior year of $604,778.02. The month of February is a large month for us inside of this fund at $325,412.40. 89% of that was a workers' comp payment on one claim. We were still, from a OJI perspective, we're still averaging around $34,000, which is what we see, so. And we currently have 19 open workers' comp claims, which is something I know that you all like to know about.
Did that big claim, did that settle it?
No, it didn't. This is an ongoing medical claim, so we will continue to have some significant costs related to that claim throughout the year.
Was it cancer or something like that?
I don't know if I can really go into the condition itself, but it is ongoing for us.
any questions.
Make a motion to approve report.
Thank you, Commissioner Jernigan. Second by Commissioner Jordan. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, that motion carries. Thank you,
Thank
Mrs.
you.
Stinson. Gentlemen, if you'll turn to section 8 in your notebooks. We will consider a resolution preliminarily authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds by the Health and Educational Facilities Board for the Middle Tennessee Medical Center facility. Mr. Sumner Bolden will join us, and I believe he also will have a guest to introduce also.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I also have Martha Rowland Tolbert of the hospital, who can explain
Okay,
hopefully
Mrs.
any
Tolbert,
questions that
if
you
you
all
will
have.
join
that
us.
She can answer questions that I can't answer, which are many, I'm sure. If you will recall, 2 years ago, there was a multi-state revenue bond issue that financed, among other things, the new hospital here in Murfreesboro. This is, I guess, I would characterize it as a follow-up to complete the project. And this is a request substantially less than the request in 2010. It's a not-to-exceed amount of $60 million. And we're winding up the construction and equipping of the facility here in Murfreesboro. And this financing relates solely to the hospital here. And we can answer any questions if you'd like, although I would point out, as usual, there's no liability to the county or the industrial development, the Health and Education Facilities Board or anybody else. It's solely payable by the borrower.
We're just a conduit for them to build.
Absolutely. That's correct, yes.
Just curiosity question, is this for the whole facility out there? I mean, everything that's going in or been going in, I look at that, what is it, St. Paul's, that pavilion, next to the main hall?
The Seton Building?
Yeah.
No, this will just relate to the hospital proper.
Okay.
The two medical office buildings on the campus, one's the DePaul building, one's the Seton building. Those are not owned by the hospital. We own the land, but the buildings are, were built by a developer. So it's just relating to the hospital.
So it's no new building on the hospital, this is just finishing out what you've got there in the shell, or what? That's what I don't understand, I'm sorry.
Well, it's all of the above. It's finishing the buildings, equipping the buildings. So it's not just finishing a shell of a building. It's actually putting the equipment in it, the furniture, fixtures, furniture, things like that.
So
How much is not finished?
Well, I don't know that any of it.
I saw the finished part, I guess.
Yeah. It's, and I have to explain this correctly. The building is finished. The original financing that we did was paid for about $146 million of the entire project, which is about $270. So this is just going back and we're financing with debt more of the project. And it's building and equipment. So it'll be a total of, I think, close to 180 to 200 of a project that the entire project is like 275, 280.
I got you.
But bottom line, there's no liability to the taxpayers of this county
That's
whatsoever.
No.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner P, seconded by Commissioner Schaefer. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bond,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley, Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes.
Commissioner Ely.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, turn to section 3, please. And we will begin work with the general fund budget amendments. And the first amendment is from the ambulance service fund.
We received received a grant from the assistant firefighters that we issued through the Homeland Security Department, and we received $400, and it required a $100,000 match. And so our request is to use the money from the ambulance fund, since they will be benefiting from the project as well, to fund the match.
Move to approve.
Second. This is all stuff we knew was gonna work. No changes in the fund.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. From the Agriculture Extension, Mr. Tuggle, good evening. And you need a lawnmower.
What I'd like to do is transfer $3,000 from line 709 to 790 to estimated fund to purchase a commercial lawnmower for Lang Agro Park. Recall earlier we moved rent funds out of the rent line to 709 and 790. Some of those to purchase a lawnmower.
Motion approved.
Second.
Commissioner Jordan, I'm sorry, who was the second? Commissioner Jernigan. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes, thank you. Pet Adoption and Welfare Services.
This request is to provide funds for maintenance agreements and to recognize revenues, receive contributions, of which they've got $14,044 to date, and appropriate the funds toward the veterinary services. So asking for $200 from advertising, $200 from medical, $500 from uniforms, and $100 for other equipment to go in. Maintenance agreements of $19,300. What did I say, $1,000,000? Okay.
$100 million, $1,000.
It's just a decimal where you.
Very
Bunch of zeros.
1,900. And then 3,000 recognizing revenue to go to veterinary services.
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Sandlin.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Schaefer. Discussion? Call roll, please.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Mr. Farley, from Fire and Rescue, we'll start with your amendments, and first of all, the sale of the ladder truck is where we'll begin.
Okay, we had a piece of apparatus in our fleet that that was gonna cost too much to repair, and we sold that to Dixon County for $6,000, and I'm requesting to transfer that back into my account to be able to buy some fire hose with it. Motion to approve.
And we have several others. If the committee is okay, we'll just go ahead and continue and take it as one vote. The next is the gasoline.
Okay, I'm requesting $10,400 out of the county gasoline fund to place $8,000 in my diesel fund and $2,400 in my gasoline fund. And then the last one is to recognize the revenue of related expenditures for the SAFER grant for 2010, 2011, and 2011, 2012, and assistance to firefighters grant. Also to recognize revenue and related expenditures for the 2011 assistance to firefighters grant to be used to purchase self-contained breathing apparatus and a mobile compressor, a Cascade fill station. I'll let my motion stand.
Thank you, Commissioner P.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Bond. Discussion?
What about in that 101, 39,000 or 31,920 out of undesignated fund balance?
That's to provide the match.
That was a match on that? I don't think there was a match on that.
not the one that we just.
This is not the one we did
previously.
last month.
Okay.
So this is,
That
I
was
guess
for
that's
the-
what I was
that was-
thinking.
That was a, for the hiring firefighters, there's no match.
That's right. So there is a match on this one, so.
Takes so long to come through, it's hard to remember what
Yeah.
the decisions were.
exactly. Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Commissioner Bond,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Yes.
Commissioner Ely.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Carter. From the Sheriff's Department and Jail, Sheriff Arnold, Mr. Russell, good evening. Mr. Russell, we will begin with your 4 amendments, and we will take that as one vote because the others are from separate funds.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, first up tonight, everybody knows gas has gone up and up and up, and last year we had cut our gas budget by $50,000, thinking that gas might go back down, and it didn't. It's a gamble that did not pay off, so we're needing to move $50,000 out of utilities because we are ahead on our utilities so far this year. So we're gonna move $50,000 out of that, put into our gasoline fund, and I'm probably gonna come back next month and would probably need to move about another $150,000 from somewhere else to finish out the year. So giving you a heads up on that right now. Next item, we're moving $11,000 out of our food service equipment and putting it into the food prep supplies budget. We're going to move on the jail side. We're going to move $12,000 out of repair and maintenance on the equipment on the jail side and into prisoner clothing. And then the last item is the $12,000 out of the other services, which is the one that Dr. Rudd, that's the state reimbursement money that we get back. We're going to put that into our custodial supplies for cleaning equipment for the jail. That's all I have.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Schaefer, seconded by Commissioner Petty.
Lisa, do you have an accurate on the utilities right there? I mean, it says the actual date for this year, that month off, so it says February, 367,000. I mean, we're that far off in utilities this time that we can, I'm proud we're moving within budget, don't ever get me wrong on that, but it's, you know, bringing 50 out of utilities there.
We looked at that. We've had a mild winter. It's gonna be tight.
Yeah.
If I get down to the point where I need some, I'll pull it from somewhere else and put it back in.
And we've talked about that
Yeah.
today, I mean, and he might make it up. We don't have, we'll be paying in March what they used in
Right.
February, and it's probably less. And so, I mean, you know, it's,
That's true, we've had a milder winter.
Yeah.
We also don't have
on
kitchen
the-
going, and we
Yeah.
also don't have the,
The gasoline, and I knew the answer to this question a few years ago, but I don't now. How do y'all get y'all's gas? Is it the same as the county and what we're doing? How do y'all get y'all's gas?
It's done.
We have a, I guess, a deal with one of the vendors here in town,
Yeah,
and
it's-
they bring it to us tractor trailer load at a time, tanker
Get your
load.
own tanks.
Tax free.
Yeah, we've got our own pumps,
Okay.
yeah, tanker, tractor trailer.
So we're buying off of the same bid that
We have now, we're gonna be using a different approach, starting even now. So we took bids on, we're not gonna be using from the, where's the place down there? Our fuel depot.
Right.
We're gonna start buying it through a provider at a different arrangement. But we have been buying under the same agreement that he's had for years and years.
and we've already done that through bid and everything.
Yeah.
But they're not going along,
They're
they're not going
not
with
in
that.
that deal right now. They can
We
just-
have our own pumps.
They have their own pumps, and they have bulk delivery. You got tanks and all,
Well, I hope we're somewhat apples to apples there for what we're using,
Well-
what y'all are using. I mean, we're all using a great deal of fuel, so I mean, with fuel prices, we've got to be looking at that.
We're still competitive with what they're doing and probably a little under.
Maybe we need to get that deal.
But no, I think you need to fuel at your location, or you don't have
Yeah,
enough fuel.
yeah.
We have a lot of fewer vehicles than you do.
I appreciate that. I was wondering about that, especially with fuel prices, where they're going. I don't know what you're talking, so.
Any further discussion relative to this motion?
Just quick thing, isn't it with everybody around here with TVA, the rates are lower in April and May? Isn't that two of the low months? As opposed to we just getting through 4 of the high months, right? Isn't that the way they do it? It's 8 high months and 4 low months? That's what they say. I don't believe it. Looking at my bill.
Fuel cost adjustment, but
Yeah.
it depends on usage and all, so it's a moving target.
But the actual rate, I believe, like in April and May, is less than it is in
I think you
January,
just-
February.
I think you just
March.
use less electricity in April and May.
I save my bills. I look at them, I'll tell you.
Well, we all use less gas in this nation and the prices still went up, so.
Yeah. But they said it rate for us.
Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Next, we have a special purpose fund budget amendment. Mr. Russell?
Okay. Basically, we're just moving 1,000 out of confidential payments and moving it into the other supplies line item under the special purpose fund.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Stanley. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Mr. Russell, from the drug fund, a budget amendment from that fund?
We had another donation come in for the K-9 unit, and they wanted to move that to the animal supplies.
So moved.
That's what that's for.
Second.
Commissioner Stanley, second by Commissioner Schaefer. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Gentlemen, do you have anything else?
I think we gotta come back
They're on here when you
Oh,
get
that's
down.
or you want to hang around with us to later?
we can either
Okay.
sit down and come back up or we can do it. later.
Yes, that will just be fine. You're a few things down there if you don't mind. Yeah, so if you'll just join us,
Don't
yeah,
get
we'll
far.
zip through it pretty fast, I think. Section 4, please, gentlemen.
Good.
From the Solid Waste Sanitation Fund, Mrs. Nolan?
This is to request additional funding for the gasoline and fuel account, and their office supply account and the post-closure contract account. They're requesting to recognize the additional monies they've received in tipping fees of $87,400, with $5 going for gasoline in the litter program, $25 for the convenience center diesel fuel, $7,000 for gasoline, $400 for office supplies, and then $50,000 for post-closure contracts with private agencies.
Motion approved.
Jordan, seconded by Commissioner P. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Gentlemen, turn please to section 7 in your notebooks. And we have a debt service fund budget amendment, and this is a cleanup amendment that Mrs. Nolan will explain to us in 3 parts.
Under 1, 2, and 3, if you look at the original budget, what I had originally budgeted was taking that capital outlay note that's coming due in April, and budgeted just rolling it, paying $1 million and rolling it. But what we did in place of it is we took it out with bond proceeds. So the amendment puts the money in the budget where it needs to be. So the first one recognizes $20,020,527 in bond proceeds and decreasing refunding debt issued. Recognizing $1.3 million in premium, 23 to underwriters discount for the general part, and $300,404 for education, and then increasing fund balance by $1 million. The second one then takes away from where I had payment of principal and takes it to refunded bond escrow. And then the third one is the debt issuance charges, again, putting it where it's actually spent and separating between the general component and education component. The 180,000 going to 12,850 for the general and 167,150 for education.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Jernigan.
Second,
Seconded by Commissioner Sandlin.
I have one question, though. The education and underwriters on 300,000, that's, I mean, just explain that just a second. You got general, okay, it's in the same thing, I guess. General
It's
is
the same
broken
thing.
out.
We just have to allocate
Mhm.
that cost to the projects that are general.
Are there, yeah.
No, we just have to,
Just separate
the
those,
ratio,
yeah.
and how much is general and how much is education.
So in a nutshell, what y'all managed to do, I think we talked about it before, is the county came out ahead on this from where we were.
For what we were working with, the numbers that we were working
In the
with.
past, okay.
Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ewing?
Yes. Gentlemen, Section 9 in your notebooks, a memorandum of understanding agreement with the American Red Cross. Mayor Burgess?
Okay, we've had some discussion. I think Mr. Cole is here
I'm
with
gonna
us.
say, yes, would you join us, please?
I'd be happy to.
And Mayor Burgess, you will introduce our guest.
This is Brian Toll, he's with the American Red Cross, and what we have here is a simple statement is, in the event of an emergency, we would propose that we grant up to 5 of our employees for up to 5 days each total. Now, we would have a pool of employees that would be more than that from which we could choose, but these would be people that would voluntarily agree to serve in a capacity that would not be a public safety response, but it would be serving in the shelters, serving and giving out food, and helping arrange accommodations, et cetera, those kinds of things, not in harm's way, you might say. And this would be a good faith partnership arrangement with the Red Cross to allow this, and they're trying to do this with other entities so that they'll have a pool of resources available when and if they need these type of assistances. So this is where we are. It may never happen. We hope we don't need to be called.
I hope there's never a need for it.
But we'll be in a position to help them if it is, and be a partner with a recovery effort. Did the attorney review the agreement, come back with a positive recommendation?
That hasn't happened yet. Tim Hooker of Emergency Management is working on inserting some language about exactly how the agreement would go into activation, because we would be officially requesting county assets to be activated and for them to be released as part of the mutual aid agreement. That hasn't been written down yet, but as soon as he does that, he will send it on to the county attorney.
Well, the reason I'm asking is, before we vote on this next Thursday, we need to have that agreement in hand.
I understand.
So will we have it in that time, Mayor, or any idea?
We could make whatever approval you could grant approval subject to his, contingent on his approval. And we could even work it out a few days even after that if we needed to, but we wouldn't execute an agreement until he gave his consent.
Well, I'm for this, of course, I gave the motion to approve it out of public safety, and I'll do the same here, contingent upon the attorney reviewing the memorandum of agreement and it being okay.
So if I understand correctly, 5 of our employees, there we go, 5 of our employees would then, we would know who would want to do this anyway.
We would
And be trained.
suggest that they volunteer. We would have 10 or 15 of these, or maybe more, that would volunteer, be trained. Then we would have a pool of those available, and it would be subject to their availability, approval of, and release at the time of the need by the department head and or their elected official as well, so they wouldn't be
we would have the last say on whether they were available to go at the time they would need it. We would have enough to accommodate maybe up to 4 or 5 day period.
And we would pay them?
They'd pay them out of.
Just like they were working
Just like
for
their
the
regular employees.
county.
Yes, sir.
We're basically making a donation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, staying in section 9, we will consider a recommendation authorizing a TVA grant application. Mayor Burgess?
Okay, we have found out about this money that's available through some TVA mitigation funds that they've given over to the state to use for both. The state's using probably at least half the money, and the other half is sort of putting it out there for people to request proposals from other municipalities. And this would be a project whereby we would put something in place within our jail, whereby we're creating hot water for use in the jail system there. That this would be a device that we would place there that would recover energy from our cooling tower there. These grants, the maximum grant that you can apply for is $250,000. It requires 20% match. So we'd have, if we get the full 250, we'd have to put up $50,000. But we think the energy savings would probably more than pay for our piece of it, maybe even within 1 year. So you have to make this application only before March the 30th. You have to get an engineer to assist in the preparation of the application and to certify the energy savings and the cost savings. And we're asking for permission to submit this grant. It will take a few $1,000s just to get the grant submitted. I think the minutes reflected up to $10,000. It won't be that much. It'll be $2,500 or less. I've already talked to the engineers from Tennessee Tech that will have agreed to help us with this. So we want a permission to submit this grant application with the authority to spend up to $2,500 for additional engineering services to help us put in proper engineering language what we're proposing to do here.
Move to approve the
Commissioner
request.
Schaefer, thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Jernigan.
And Mayor, wasn't it those engineers at Tennessee Tech have done this before?
They are working on a project at Fall Creek Falls that's very similar to this.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Mr. Russell and Sheriff Arnold, if you'd like to join us again, we are going to consider the request approving the concept of requiring additional space for the Sheriff's Department. And gentlemen, you will notice it says Section 2. What that is referring to are your minutes for the committees that have already discussed this. Property Management at their February the 23rd meeting did endorse the concept of finding extra space for the jail, and they asked that be sent to Public Safety, and it was sent to Public Safety with further discussion, and the motion that came out of Public Safety is to also endorse the project and to additionally determine the funding. The mayor needs a motion from us to endorse the concept of finding extra space and for him to be able to negotiate up to $1 million for the purchase of property and renovation. So if you will think about that in your consideration, Mayor Burgess and our Sheriff Arnold, do you want to add anything else to those motions coming from those two committees?
I think you summarized it pretty simply.
Gentlemen,
One thing I want to mention is I got with Chief Russell and talked to him about the money that we're spending on rental property every year, and it exceeds 50,000. How much are we paying a month on those rentals?
It was 41,000, I'm sorry. It's 33,600 for one lease that we're paying at one section, and then we're renting some additional storage space at 7,200 a year. And then, of course, we have the horse barn rental, but I don't really count that. But it was 41,000 a year.
So that would be offset, and I just wanted to mention that.
Would this alleviate both those leases?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Well, plus there's certain things that can be moved out of the sheriff's, the office out there, the jail, and this that can have be located at a off-site, I guess the best way to put it. And the quarters out there right now are full to overflowing, I guess is a good way to put it.
No doubt.
If we started doing construction out there, we'd spend $1 million before you turned around.
But we're already spending $1.2 million on our kitchen, and we had, including that, previously when we had this discussion about this, it could have been $8 or $9 million in total. So we will postpone the expenditure of $8+ million, maybe for several years, we hope.
Okay, and as we consider your a motion or a potential motion, as far as funding, we have, each of us have this right. Did you put that in everybody's deeds? No. Oh, okay.
I was prepared.
So
You go ahead, you're prepared on
If
this.
I understand correctly, what you're getting at, that you're looking for additional space somewhere to buy.
To acquire, and it may require some renovation to put it in shape whereby that, the office spaces would be there. We've had Mr. Klein, the architect's been helping us out there with some of these brick remediation and kitchen, worked with the sheriff, and they have identified some of the departments that they could move. And they have projected the square footage needs for those departments. And that's sort of how we projected how many dollars we might need. We know about how many square feet we need, we know about how much that might cost, so that's helped us determine what we think is a reasonable number to set as a target for the total expenditure of $1 million, what we've come up with.
So I mean, our land that's out there with the jail's on right now, I mean, what do we have? How much available land still do we have?
We still got ample
23
land.
acres is kind of a complex that the jail sits on right now.
Yeah, they can't do it.
23 acres, I believe, that's what it is.
So you're not thinking about building a,
Well, we were thinking about spending
Accessory
$8 to
building.
$10 million addition to this, but we've decided right now it's not an opportune time. The funds are limited in us doing that, so we think this is a much better first step. And this structure we acquire, if and when we don't need it again, we think we'll be in a position to remarket that if we choose to sell it. It won't be an investment that won't be recoverable.
Where the market is right now, you can probably buy cheaper than you can build.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then if the market does rebound, then you could capture that advance and.
Yeah, I think that's, yes.
It's an asset that the county
Yeah.
will own.
Does it necessarily have to be in the same vicinity as the jail?
We've looked at several locations, and so we've got several
Some
properties we're looking at.
spots are hotter than others, you know, you
That's
don't
right.
necessarily have to be on a 5-lane road with 2 million cars a day or some monster traffic number. You could be on a side street tucked in where it's not gonna be near as pricey, you know.
what about the security of it too? I mean, is it records or is it people or is it what's
Well,
going on?
yeah, all of the above. I mean, it'll have to be, they'll have a security
No
system there.
security
Yeah.
type deal.
Right.
Lisa, if we borrow $1 million on that, what would be the cost per year for that note? This closed.
Well, wait a minute.
She's got a,
Okay, you got it right there.
got a little bit of.
Jumping the gun.
I got a plan.
The cost.
Okay.
If you go with her plan, it will be very low cost.
When we were talking about how much were we gonna borrow in this borrowing, we had estimated only borrowing half the road, because we didn't think we would need it all at once, but of course, you know that what happened is that we got a great premium and a great price, and so a decision was made to go ahead and fully borrow for the road.
Jody
So-
Jackson, our piece of that, we have a full amount of that money, even though we won't spend it for the, probably a 2 or 3 year period, but we have the full $4 million in hand through this last money we borrowed.
So we could go ahead and use $1 million of that, reallocate it from the road project into another, to this project. And what's important is the resolution, the initial resolution, what you authorize the money to be used for. And we did have that language in there, so that those funds could be used for this purpose.
Where you gonna get that $1 million
We'll have to.
when you need it for the
We will
finish
have
the
to
road?
borrow for that, but then that puts it on down the road, maybe 2 years. You know, we went ahead and borrowed all of it for the road, but we probably won't use it. We won't need it for however long it takes to do the Joby Jackson one. We haven't
Interest
made
was
the
so
first
cheap,
payment.
just went ahead and took advantage of it also.
Yes.
But the rate
But
wasn't,
we would still have to, there'll be $1 million out there hanging that we'll need to complete our portion of Joby Jackson.
the rate wasn't low enough to pay to have $4 million for the Joby Jackson Road project and this. Not quite that much.
We had no authority from the commission to say this is what you wanted to do. Had all this happened before, maybe we could have done another $1 million, but
Lisa, was it a little bit more than $4 million that we actually have extra, or is it exactly $4 million? I don't remember, I think it's about 4.6 or something.
Well, I can tell by the cash.
Okay.
No, it was only we did $4 million, and then I did a 250 extra for outstanding Hoss Hill Pike.
Okay.
Potential.
So the 250 was over there.
Mhm. So,
Well, say that construction rebounds, you know, here in the future. Can development tax money be used, since isn't a road a capital project that it can be used
Yes.
for? It can.
Yes,
So, I mean, there's an
absolutely.
option that if things go decent, we may not even have to borrow or not have to borrow at all.
absolutely.
We just gotta be judicious in what we spend things on.
And that's
right?
what you're building Joby Jackson for, is to have more development come in the area and use that road.
Well, what was the percentage, the actual percentage on the bond, 2.32 or something?
2.42%.
2.42. Well, that would be rough numbers, $24,000 a year on $1 million. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. And we're paying $42,000 approximately now in rent, so that's a substantial savings. It's kindergarten math right there, you know.
There you go.
So that's a plan.
You can tell he went to school in Rutherford County. So you need a motion?
Yes.
Well, I'll make the motion to approve that the mayor go out and seek and have the right to negotiate for additional space for the sheriff's department.
We'll have 37 realtors calling him in the morning.
In front.
I'll second the motion.
And with the money to be.
Up to $1 million.
Up to
$1
$1
million,
Mhm.
and with the money to be used out of the funds
Okay.
that were obtained with the last borrowing.
Okay, is that your motion?
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Okay.
Then I second also.
And Commissioner P. seconds that motion.
What kind of square footage was y'all talking about?
12,000 square feet
12,000.
is about what we're talking about. Doesn't meet his needs, and we think we can get it in this budget range. We'll just have to see.
Will this come back to this committee?
That's what we were just thinking. I think really, yeah, it probably should come back, and we
We
could
could
probably.
endorse the idea, you know,
And
and
apply.
get it started with it. You won't close it overnight.
No.
You know, we have things come back here and we actually approve the budget. We don't know how much it's gonna be. You might spend 800,000, you might.
But, and we do already have some preliminary numbers from the architect, so we need to couple the acquisition with the renovation to be sure we have a package that works.
Right. Because you'll need a building coming to you at $1 million.
What I
You
need.
gotta have it much
Lock and
less than
key.
that to do your lock and key.
Oh,
We
we
gotta have lock and key
gotta
for
have
$1 million.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And so we'll go ahead and amend, I guess, through the resolution to move $1 million out of the road project into a public safety acquisition project
And renovation.
renovation.
And I hate to be particular, but I mean, can we add that language to it?
y'all's motion and second and everything, I mean, that's a turnkey deal for $1 million.
Well, whatever it is, it's not to exceed a finished
Well,
product.
we did say not to exceed $1 million.
So that'd come back
And
after
that's
money.
what-
And if you said turnkey, so it could still come back and after.
Well, when we get the precise numbers in hand, we're going to,
Yeah.
we're gonna bring it back to you anyway for final approval.
What that was, the purchase and for the renovation.
Yeah.
Because depending on the property, what your renovation's gonna
That's
be.
right.
You surely don't wanna get into asbestos and all that problem.
Well, they're telling you they're gonna bring it back, so I don't know why we keep talking about it.
You know what you're doing.
Okay, gentlemen, any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum,
Yes?
Commissioner Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Yes.
Commissioner Ely.
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We're in section 9 of our
Made y'all sit
notebooks,
down now.
and we have a recommendation authorizing a STOP grant application. Is there anyone in the audience representing that
I
group?
see why she made them sit down.
Well, this,
Some other folks would have
this is in our domestic violence program, and we have this grant right now. It was a 3-year grant, and that term is expiring, and this is available now for us to apply for another grant, so it's about 43,000. It has been currently. I think maybe it's gonna be just a tiny bit more, but we need permission to go ahead and apply for this grant. I think we're gonna get it, but it's important for our revenue source of our domestic violence program. And there's no April the 5th deadline. There's no match on this, I believe.
Motion approved. Second.
Commissioner Jordan, seconded by Commissioner Sandlin.
And accept.
And accept, yes, if we receive the,
And it's applied for 3 years.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum,
Yes?
Commissioner Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Yes.
Commissioner Ely.
Yes. Gentlemen, next on our agenda is a resolution amending the county's accounting and financial management policies to require direct deposit of county payroll payments and related direct deposit policy. In section 8, please.
And this is now, Mr. Sanders has had the opportunity to relay the information to the school board. And looking at this, I think that I need to add one thing on the resolution and say that effective January 1, 2013, that will require all of them. And the other thing I changed on the policy is that it would be mandatory for all new employees hired after May 1st. We did have April 1st. Push that back on.
Does this
What's
say?
been your feedback on this
The
adventure?
feedback that I got was, where's my check gonna be this month? You know, they thought it was, people thought that it was gonna happen immediately for all the current employees.
Will this save the county money
If
by virtue of going straight to bank?
it's safer, it'll go straight to bank. The check stock we use, I mean, there's more facets to this, what I would eventually like to have. The paper that we use to put the stubs on is expensive paper. So if we're not having to do any checks that way, then we could just get regular paper and fold it. We mail checks, the real checks, we mail those. One of our policies in our office, if there's a lost check, the employee has to wait 5 business days before we'll replace that check, because usually on 5 business day, the missing check shows up. Direct deposit, it's there that day. So benefit for them. What I would like to get to is not only the direct deposit, but have online paid stubs. So where we're not even printing the stubs, that it'll be out there for the employees to access.
But you've got to mail the stuff anyway, or mail the
What we do,
statement or
if
something
it's
like
the
that.
direct deposit stubs, I mean, it still is on regular check stock, it just says void on the bottom, that we still use that and it
Somebody has
is
to stuff
distributed.
that envelope and mail that envelope.
Well, it
whatever.
folds it and seals it all at once,
Yeah.
but then it's a process of printing it and then sending it out to departments, and then schools then have to, I mean, there's some labor to it too. So that's the long-term view of where I'd like to get to, but the first step is required direct deposit.
I think in other words, the answer was yes.
Okay, so here's the thing for y'all, here's the one thing for y'all to know, that, that would affect y'all, is that usually at commission on Thursday, Friday, we usually are cutting commission checks, it'll be 2 days. Because we'll have to have 2 days to process and to get through the payment systems.
So all employees' checks be direct deposit.
By January 1, 2013. A lot of the feedback I hear from
You
people
ain't
I
gonna
talk
go
to,
over too good on some of them.
people have bank accounts, they just want that paper. And we'll have cards, so instead of having the paper, they'll have a card. If ones that can't get bank accounts or, would rather have a card. So instead of getting paper that they take somewhere to say, give me my money, they take their card and get their money.
And you talked about it, we'll deal with what SunTrust Bank was it, that with no fee, no charge, and give everybody a card that doesn't have a bank account whatsoever. It's hard to believe some people don't have a bank account whatsoever. And it's getting harder and harder for people to cash their checks. They
And it's a
pay
fee.
substantial fees to cash those checks.
If they don't have a bank account
without a
already
bank
there.
account, yeah.
Now, what they say, they being SunTrust, when they bring this program in, that's where they find that people just go ahead and go direct deposit. They'll just go ahead and make that step then.
Federal government's doing this too. All Social Security
Right.
recipients, sometime in the year, next year or something, they've got.
Well, and retiring from TCRS, I think is required to go direct deposit, so it's gonna happen to you.
Yeah, most businesses are forcing that issue also.
My daughter works at a small business over at the Avenues, and it's all direct deposit. I mean, with a choice.
Motion approved.
Thank you, Commissioner Jordan.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Bond. Any further discussion?
666 tattooed on there, on her forehead or something.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan,
No.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Fanning,
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Yes.
Commissioner Eagley.
Gentlemen, we need to look at our budget calendar for this fiscal year. If you'll be at the back of section 9. And the official start to this budget process begins on May the 10th, which is a regularly scheduled budget committee meeting. And that is also when the mayor and the finance director will give us an overview of the budget. And then we will begin work on the general fund on 3 different meetings, May 15, May 16, and May 21. We are scheduled to have a joint meeting with the Health and Education Committee at the school board office on May the 22nd. And then on May the 29th, consider the general purpose school fund along with the central cafeteria fund and the education capital funds. We may not need the meeting scheduled on May 31st, but we included that date because it is important that we have the budget ready for publication. So if that meeting is necessary, it is on our calendar. If we finish the work that we need to be ready for publication on the 29th, we will cancel that meeting. In June, we will have our regular budget meeting on June the 7th, but we could also discuss any part of the budget at that meeting also. The public hearing on the budget proposal will be June 18th. And notice all of our meetings will start at 5:30 except for the public hearing, which will be at 7 o'clock in the courtroom. We will follow the public hearing the following evening with a discussion of the public hearing and review any budgets necessary on June 19th. And then on June the 22nd, the Board of Education has the opportunity to adjust any of their line items and make those known to this committee by that date. And then June 27th, we hopefully will be finished with the process and ready to approve a tax levy resolution and an appropriation resolution and present that to the full county commission on June 29th at 9 a.m.
At June 22nd, that time, 5:30, there's really no time. That's just a deadline for them to make the changes. That's not a
Okay.
meeting, so you.
Okay, so.
June 22nd.
June
Okay,
22nd.
so no meeting for them to meet that requirement. They just have to do that, but we will not have to meet to approve anything. So a possibility of no meeting on May 31st. There is not a meeting on June 22nd.
The June 19th meeting, what if 3 people show up and don't have anything to say that requires discussion? Do we have the leniency that night or the opportunity that night to cancel the next night's meeting? Just save the county money, and I mean, if, some years there's 2 or 3 people show up and don't actually say anything suggested, they just make statements.
That's been true the last 2 or 3 years, really.
Yeah.
So could we that night as a committee to discuss the public hearing?
Discussing the
Oh,
June
discussing.
19th meeting.
Oh.
So could we,
We could schedule that meeting.
could we legally have a motion that night that we did not
I
need
think
to
we've done
the
that
next day?
before. I think we've done that before, cancel
To
that.
cancel the
Just
next
cancel
day's
it.
meeting.
Just call them.
It costs money every time we bring this group together. I mean, not a lot of money, but in the big scheme of things, but every penny counts.
Any further discussion as to the proposed budget schedule?
Is there a joint meeting with the Board of Education?
Gotta be
here?
careful getting around the public.
That is May 22nd.
Only takes one person to say.
Is that the one at the school board? Is that the one here?
At the school board office.
It's the regular
So we're
health.
having a public
That's the
hearing.
regular meeting for the health and
It's just
ed,
if we
and
need to follow up to that.
Ms. Short has been in communication with the chairman of that committee, so he'll be sure that that is officially scheduled.
Well, it says it right there, I just didn't see it.
I was confused with the June 22nd.
Okay.
That's what my problem was.
Joint meeting with the health and ed at the school board on May 22nd. Reiterating again that May 31st may be a meeting that could be canceled, and there is not a meeting for us on June the 22nd. How about the rest of the calendar? Would you like a motion on that we accept the budget?
Motion to approve the calendar. as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Jeremy, seconded by Commissioner T. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Gentlemen, any other business that needs to come before our committee? Thank you very much. We are adjourned.
My oldest.